this video finds you in stillness and peace, but if not, I have a few things that I wanted to share with you that I've been thinking about this week, because I figured if I'm thinking about these things, chances are somebody else is too. So this past week, a colleague from NFYI and myself, we were having a webinar, and we were talking about how the uncertainty of this time can bring up old trauma wounds that remind us of times of deprivation and uprooting in the past. And we can start to think about the things that we have lost, and it very easily become fearful that somehow our future will be taken from us. And it's honestly quite easy to start reconnecting emotionally to how we felt in those past moments. And we start to maybe doubt our present ability to cope, and become paralyzed by fear. So she and I were talking about how we can remind ourselves of who we are today, where we are today, in an effort to halt those fears, reminding ourselves that even if everything is taken from us, we will not be starting from scratch. We will be starting from experience. And so what we were talking about feels a bit like mindfulness, but it's also very different. And I know there's a huge glaring question mark of how are we not to be fearful when there's a time of, uncertainty and there's a pandemic outside our door. So we were talking about how being present in a moment can be triggering if that moment doesn't feel safe. And we recognize that this moment doesn't feel safe for many former foster youth. And what we all need right now is different. Some of us need to work extra. Some of us feel like we need to collapse and cry. Some need to practice distraction and avoidance from the triggering events. And some are meeting it with arms open in radical acceptance. So I've been thinking about, what is the common thread that can help us meet these needs at this time? And I think the answer is self-compassion, which is not dependent on external circumstances. So mindfulness looks at the immediate experience, what is happening in life right now, and how can I be present with what is happening in life right now. So self-compassion looks at what is happening to the experiencer of the moment in life right now. So it shifts our focus from those events to ourselves. And to those with a trauma history, mindfulness can feel like expectation or a call to embrace this horrible time, which of course everything in us rejects wholeheartedly. So the difference with self-compassion is that it asks us to ask ourselves, what do I need during this horrible time? You can start to adopt a self-compassion practice by asking yourself, what do I need in this moment? And then proceed to provide for yourself whatever that response is. We really have to let go of the guilt for what we think we should be doing in this particular moment, and remember that it's okay to ask over and over again, even in the same day, what do I need as waves of tough feelings come up. Our feelings change, and so it's okay that our responses do too. So be flexible with yourself as your needs change. Most of us practice better compassion with our friends and family than we do with ourselves. And this is evident by our internal dialogue or the thoughts we think about ourselves to ourselves. We wouldn't dare say such hurtful, ugly things to others, yet we often don't think anything of thinking those things to ourselves all day long. So one of the simplest tricks to defeating this pattern is to practice responding to our critical thoughts like we would a friend. So we imagine our self-critical thoughts as things a friend is sharing with us, And then we respond to those instead of just letting them run down the train tracks. So we respond to those in the way that we would respond to a friend, often very encouraging, loving, understanding. And when we give ourselves that compassion, we heal ourselves, and then we're able to feel less overwhelmed, and we're able to move forward. So to start responding to yourself like you would a friend is so helpful. Beyond this, the application or the practice of self-compassion can look very different. Maybe it's self-compassion affirmations, maybe it's physical self-holding exercises to reduce trauma memories in the body, maybe it's resourcing with others, or maybe it's getting our true self in alignment with our values that are calling to us during this time. You can research more about these modes of healing, or feel free to submit a question to Empty Frames and we can talk more via video. I'll leave you with the call to love your neighbor as yourself, because I believe that God recognizes that our need for self-love, and the knowing that our love starts with Him and extends to us before it extends to others. So I wish you all love, protection, and healing during this time.